With all of the changes that have taken place and will continue to take place, navigating them is difficult, but ultimately it really is on you. I've been talking an awful lot about policy, but really it comes down to what you can accomplish, what you want to accomplish, and of course, how it fits into the greater society around you. An economy is not a government. It's about, well, really everything. How you express your values and what they mean to the world. But we are all dealing with a tremendous amount of change. And that's where, well, the example for today is this. This is 10 South Korean won. This particular bill, I believe, is from the Korean War. I'm not sure. The fact that it's only 10 won suggests that it was before the time of great inflation in the 1950s. Very few countries have seen as much change as South Korea. In fact, they put the I Ching in their flag, so they know something about dealing with change. They went from being a totally war ravaged country to a military dictatorship that was quite poor to a very, very quick rise. Everybody over a certain age in South Korea certainly remembers the bad times. But here they are today, and they're taking steps to, well, try to not become Japan. And this is very important because it demonstrates the capabilities and the limits of looking at things as an economy. Even if you get beyond this thing called money and look at people. See, as important as skills are, the various skills that are needed are going to change when you have a time of great change, especially in a technology driven economy. What is going to work best for you comes down to the intersection of three things: what you like to do, what you are good at, and what is valued in the market. Now, hopefully, you have a job that takes care of at least two of those, but all three would be fabulous. Now, knowing what you like to do is really a matter of sitting down and thinking it through and quite a bit of experience. Knowing what you can do well is certainly a matter of experience. I mean, skill comes from experience. Knowing what the market needs, that's where there is policy. I mean, what is valuable? And South Korea recently has decided that they're in danger of turning into Japan. That stagnation, that lost generation. And so they're trying to do something about it. They have a very elaborate uh, system in place for finding jobs and finding out what skills are needed. It even uses artificial intelligence and big data systems, and everybody in South Korea can make use of it. It's still under development, but just this February, the World Bank highlighted what they are doing successfully. See, for all of the tremendous change that South Korea has been through, there is more yet to come. And they understand that and they want to master it. What they've had has been very top down. The Kaibals have created a system that is very industrial in nature, but it's not going to be enough. They are trying to increase their self reliance. Should we call it Juche? No, that's a different Korea. But making Korea independent and strong. And in all of this, well, they've created a very hectic life. Their birth rate has dropped dramatically. And the traditional measure of happiness in a people is the birth rate. People who are happy and stable and having a good life typically start families. It's just the way it goes. It's a long way from where this bill was printed, but the people of South Korea are working on it. And you're going to have to as well. So, how do you find out what it is you like to do and, for that matter, what you're good at, even if there is a system in place to help you develop? The answer is that sometimes you have to learn by doing. There are many different ways of learning. Howard Gardner had his multiple intelligences theory that shows that, well, everybody learns in a different way. That's the short version of it. It's kind of a duh. Some people just don't learn in a classroom setting. They have to learn by doing. And certainly any employer is going to value experience more than education. When we talk about personal development and encouraging the development of skills in a people, it's very common for politicians to stress education programs. Now, this in the United States and the need for various education, many jobs requiring more education, has created online institutions, many of which are actually failing through all of this. You would think people sitting down, being able to work on their degree. Well, no, actually, it's been very, very difficult. People have trouble paying the bills. I mean, the whole concept of a multi year degree is kind of falling apart, isn't it? What people often need to be a truly flexible workforce and to be able to move and take advantage when they know there's an opportunity requires what a short term certification would work much better that says you're a Python programmer or something like that. A welder, we always use the welder example. So, education itself has to change, but that's not necessarily something government can do. Government can do what Korea has done, which is tell people exactly what's going on in the market. But it does come down to what you like best and what you're good at. And this is where a flexible workforce can be especially useful for young people to find out what they do best, assuming there are the proper protections in place so that they're not being exploited, and assuming that this doesn't mean that they lose their health care benefits or have, if something catastrophic happens, their whole life is ruined. That's what it comes down to. Having a time to explore and understand what it is you do best, as well as have the information necessary to make choices based on how the three things work. And of course, for you, an understanding of how you learn best. It's a pretty tall order. We have a society which, well, it values pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, but really doesn't give a lot of advice as to how. And lately, there's been this glorification of people who are extremely wealthy. I don't mean to spend a lot of time complaining about Hollywood or whatever, but really, we need to change our values. And that is likely to happen because of what has happened here today with the lockdowns, etc. People are going to emerge from this likely thinking of a different kind of world. But all change comes from within first. It's simply that way. There are many things that can be done to help that, to encourage that culture, and indeed to provide the information. Koreans, older ones certainly, have seen a tremendous amount of change. This 10 won is worthless now, but South Korea is wealthy. There you go. How do you manage all of this? This is where developing nations have some advantages because there is a mindset in place of change. Everybody has seen it. Things have been so far anyways getting better. What's beautiful about South Korea is that they have the example right next door of Japan where everything suddenly stopped. What can you do about it? Well, when we talk about failures of markets, failures of labor markets are the most classic. People don't just change jobs instantly. It's very difficult to have a truly flexible labor force. But there are things that can be done to make it more flexible and more responsive to the market. They really do start with you. What you can do, what you like to do, and go out from there. How do you learn? How do you adapt? How do you figure things out? What are your basic values? A society that encourages personal development is far more important than any policy, but policy can help in the very long term direct it. South Korea understands that this has to happen. They've come very, very far, and they need to make it to the next level. They also know what happens if you don't do that. But what are we going to do about it? What are we doing to make sure that people can have temporary jobs, gain experience, and not risk absolutely everything? What are we doing to encourage shorter term certifications that show that people really do have a new skill rather than insisting on, say, a 4-year degree when it's not necessary? There are a lot of things to work out as a people. But it all starts with us. South Korea's change started at the top, but good change management is a combination of top down and bottom up. There has to be a solid message for people at the bottom that they have the time to really think things through and the reason to believe that there is opportunity for them and the knowledge of what those opportunities are. From there, it's all about what you can do. What are you doing with it? Are you making good use of your time? I hope so. The people of South Korea have been on a long journey, and they're going on a longer one. It's always good to use examples from other nations and their other experiences. As the world gets closer together, if we can't learn from each other and understand how our different values come together and how those become value in the marketplace together, well, we're missing a great opportunity. The world is going to continue coming closer together. And strangely enough, that only puts more pressure on the individual to do what they need to do. That's the beauty of the bigger world becoming more specialized. Personal development is absolutely critical. Policies that make it happen, mostly based on information, are going to help. But they're not everything. It comes down to what each individual can do to contribute and how we maximize their productivity, but more importantly, their happiness. Can't be a rat race. That's one thing that South Korea is learning the hard way right now. But they're doing something about it. What are we doing? Thank you.